Hello there folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss on different topics like spirituality, deeper introspection, dream analysis, game analysis, and well, other ideas. Now, I'm also still available if people have video games they're working on and they want some, you know, guidance, or they want some personal opinions on that and some constructive criticism. Feel free to also contact me on this. Now, the topic of today is gonna be, well, somewhat specific to me, and I'm not aiming towards this, but I usually prefer, actually, I don't prefer, but the titles of some of my videos may be a bit quirky or different than expected, because many people live unfortunately in expectations. But the topic of today's video will be about God and what you actually have created. Okay, now the most important question of many people is who and what is actually God, and I'm gonna probably shatter a lot of people's beliefs, or at least they will feel pissed. And if they feel pissed, it means I have touched some thought forms that don't belong to them, and they have suddenly felt some fear, because these thought forms that exist and that we have been creating throughout our existence because we weren't aware of our mental and emotional capacities. Now, these thought forms still linger in this world and require energy to feed, and most likely they were created in a place of very low awareness, so most likely they were built in times of, or feelings and emotions of survival, okay, and instincts and control and the such. So those thought forms have been created under the shape of, let's say, under the vibration of a parasite, okay. So they will actually continue to feed upon many people. Then one of the reasons why when you challenge some people, they will feel pissed, because those ideas, they are vowing to feed those with their own attention. Now, I've been presenting this in previous videos, as every time you accept a new belief, or you create a new belief, it's like you have created a deity in your mind, okay. And each this new belief actually broadens the pantheon that you have, okay. And in order to support these thought forms, you need what I call a group of supporters, okay, or the preachers. Now, these preachers are basically the stories that you build so that whatever you're believing is plausible, because we humans have become very capable of lying ourselves, okay. If something isn't logical, you almost instantly invent some kind of idea, but you don't even invent that. It's simply gested into your mind by some other force, okay, that's simply exploiting your imagination, because basically the mind is nothing else than an engine of creation, okay, as I call it, an engine of ingenuity. And this engine of ingenuity, okay, this engine of creation can only simply create, and what it creates from is out of your own experiences, first of all, because you are what you have experienced, you are what you know, okay, you are not what you don't know, okay, you are just what you know. Anything that you don't know can only be resumed to, I don't know, let's call it the level of a belief, okay. You can only believe or discard what you don't know, because if you don't know something, you go and ask someone. And well, unfortunately, especially the Western societies have kind of ended up giving a lot of their energy, okay, and importance, okay, to the aspect of the mind, okay, because we have forgotten, and we simply will reject the idea that the mind isn't everything, okay. The mind is just a minor level of existence, and well, the way we will use the mind is we will use the mind through our physical body, okay. Now, the mind of course has more layers, but what we are using it is basically physical memory, okay, that which you store in your brain. But your brain as an organ is just a bit of your body, okay, and it is just something that to a certain extent, I mean, kind of to the full extent of its existence, it only helps with survival, okay, because what it does is it processes and stores, okay, data and information only for your survival, and well, mine and anyone else's, okay, not only humans, okay. Why am I saying this? Well, because that's basically, more like a, you don't need to prove this, okay. This is something that anyone, I guess, knows at a certain level, because the brain processes whatever your instincts, well, actually, let's not get into the instincts part, but your brain processes everything that your senses perceive, okay. And again, the senses perceive in a certain way, because each and every individual perceives things in a different way, and the brain also perceives and actually processes those in a different way. So obviously, whatever each and every one individual from each and every one race perceives this world in a different way. So therefore, this point is that um, even what we perceive is, well, it is real to our own truth, but in a way it is illusionary, because it is not as they basically are, okay. That's where the term of Maya has come from, okay. Throughout history, we haven't been training our minds and emotions, so therefore we ended up paying a huge amount of our resources to the mind, because, well, as the evolutionary theory says, we've been existing in a three-dimensional level of consciousness, which is considered, that aspect of the Manipura, the third chakra up till there. And, the first three chakras are related specifically to the physical body, and therefore survival, well-being, and the idea of self-control, okay. But if these things become imbalanced, then, well, survival is blocked by fear and worries, and then well-being is blocked by grudges and, well, not feeling good around your parents, becoming closed off, and, well, the self-control becomes control over others when it is, imbalanced. So from this level, okay, we easily ended up believing that the mind is literally everything, and, uh, some even got to consider that, I think, therefore I exist, okay. Now this can be misinterpreted in a way, because you think, therefore you exist, okay. Some people might actually misinterpret this, okay. It's not because you think one lives, okay. One lives because, well, they were given this privilege by life as is, as a process, okay. And thinking is part of life, okay. Thinking occurs just because someone is necessarily, I mean, not necessarily alive, okay, in this way, because basically there is kind of no such thing as death, and, death and religion have been one way to control and, gain the attention that your parents haven't given you when you are young. It's an aspect of narcissism and, well, more or less sociopathy. And, well, considering that we've been living in societies where we have trapped ourselves further and further from nature, it's obvious that we simply would collapse in all the pitfalls of the mind. And when you get a lot of ideas and beliefs, you have a kind of an awkward sensation that you know a lot of things, okay. And it's losing your humility, because the more you think you know, and again, this thinking, it's a belief, and a belief means accepting something without the need for proof, right? So what I'm saying is not necessarily that religions are false or that God is false, but God as we know it and religion as we know it, they are completely false, because they are nothing else than our own creation, okay. Now this might sound a bit contrasting, but I'm not saying there is nothing out there that allows this universe to be created, okay. But many people simply won't allow themselves to think, what if this universe is not necessarily something conscious, okay. Although we kind of speak a lot about consciousness, but we still don't know exactly what it is. You see, that's another belief. You don't know what something is, but you have some lies in there, you have certain things and beliefs in there, okay. So long as you haven't experienced something, it's just a belief. You can either discard it or you can accept it as is, but it doesn't mean that it is necessarily the truth, okay? And necessarily your truth, because each and every one is here for their own learning, okay, for their own experiencing of life. And yeah, that's a point. Um, yeah. So the point about religions, okay, what I see religion and the idea of gods, okay. Now gods and goddesses have always been a creation of the human mind, okay. They have always been the embodiment of, human futility, and basically anything that people couldn't understand, they would attribute it to something, to gods, okay, to something that is much bigger. Now it's obvious that everything comes in a bigger form if it is more powerful, okay. That is why you have giants, okay. They are a symbol of strength, okay. They are much bigger, and God is considered a man who is much bigger than us. If lions would become, as intelligent as us, and they would believe in a certain god, most likely it will have their own shape, okay. Now the main question that simply dispels any religion is that no one is capable of presenting the whole aspect of this creation, okay. No one simply can define creation, okay. Now the problem with defining creation is that it is, wrong from the roots, because when you define something you are giving it a meaning, and a meaning is something like a diminutive, okay, because there are things far beyond the mind, okay, like the love, for example. Love frequency is beyond the mind because it's the fourth chakra, okay. That is why it is something that you cannot simply understand, okay. And I've wondered and questioned why I wouldn't simply be able to understand this love. I would simply have, like, I would accept people the way they are, and they wouldn't bother me much, unless they would specifically seek to bother me. But the question is, okay, it's like, but there was nothing about that, okay. Like, that is basically what love is. There is no condition, there is no expectation and the such. Sure, this is not something that you can easily achieve, but at the same time I want to dispel the point of, unconditional love. There is no such thing as unconditional love, because, well, first of all, in order to love you need this human body, because through this body you will perceive love in a different way than, let's say, if you would have another body, okay. um, there is also the condition that you need to be alive, okay. And there are other, minute conditions that have to exist, okay. You have to be, I don't know, you can come up with different ideas, but there is always gonna be some little conditions that people overlook, okay. And therefore, you can't have um, unconditional love, okay. This unconditionality is simply something that doesn't exist, okay. In order for love to exist there must be a desire. In order for desire to live there must be life, because desire is a manifestation of life, okay. So if we dive into this alone we can find a few, but I'm not I'm not gonna invest into this. So doing these little roundabouts, okay, in which I present certain points so that the grounding for the topic will be sturdy. Now the point about deities, okay, is that we cannot define what life is, okay. We don't know what life is, okay. No one knows what life is. No one knows how life manifests, okay. And you simply don't know what life is, especially if you're afraid of this concept we created that is named death, okay. So all these religions and cults that say you'll be judged and the such, it's just a parental fear, okay. It's a fear of your parents and your friends and everyone that will I don't know, haunt you, and especially with an untrained mind, and especially much worse untrained emotions, um, and also adds a lot of low self-esteem. You'll end up with a lot of people like this that will simply do anything possible to simply alleviate these fears. And people, in order to alleviate fears, they will simply call on to control, okay. They will try to control their emotions, and you can simply repress them, or you can simply create a beautiful set of lies, okay. and add to that a lot of illiterate people, and well, you come up with something like this. You come up with an idea of an almighty being, right? But the question that comes in, like, aren't you knowledgeable of that topic, of that idea? Like, you know, there is a saying, anything that your mind cannot perceive will automatically be indistinguishable from magic. Okay, that is why in the older times there were different how to call them, yes, there were different gods, and there were gods of the phenomena. Okay, god of earthquakes, god of lightning, god of storms. Okay, and even like up till, I don't know, 100 200 years ago, like even nowadays there are people who believe that everything bad that happens, some gods are angry. Okay, these are ancient styles of thinking. Okay, now it's not good to simply shake people out of their beliefs, because as I said, they have to learn their own things, and they each have their own demons that they are feeding. Okay, uh, whenever I think about Christianity, okay, and uh, people who believe in this idea of Christianity, I can only think about pain and desolation, because Christianity is a, as of what I see, it is a religion of desolation. It only leads people empty of emotions, because the only thing they can think of, and everywhere you can look in, especially in Western societies, okay, there is this constant fear of death, this worrying about whether you are perfect or not in the eyes of your God. And even worse than that, so many people, even those around me, they are so bewildered by this, and they are so lost to such fears that they ended up creating their own version of God. Okay, so God in the end is nothing else than our own version of interpreting the world. Okay, and trying to understand through the minuteness of our mind, okay, the intricacies of the universe. And this is a stupidity and silliness, okay, that also appears in science, which appears to be nowadays the next generation Bible. Okay, if you don't believe in what scientists say, you're kind of a heretic. But most of the scientists aren't even scientists; they're just prancing around with one or two ideas. Okay, there are so many people nowadays that they have a certain thought, they almost instantly take it for granted, like as if it's a kind of an epiphany. Okay, the mind is full of pitfalls. Okay, don't trust your mind that much, because it has thousands of ways of screwing you over. Okay, and again, this is one of the greatest traps, and many people believe they are awakened just because their imagination is greater than others. Okay, many people believe they are astral projecting, but they're not realizing that what they're manifesting is nothing else than a set of hallucinations. They're believing that they are speaking with spirits, but again, they are nothing. Those, in most of the situations, are nothing else than dreams. Okay, and a dream is more like an unfulfilled wish. Okay, it's an unfulfilled business. Okay, and an unfinished business. Okay, something, usually it represents regrets. Okay, it shows regret, it shows feeling of disappointment. Okay, it shows misfulfillment. Okay, and that is why they will keep coming into your dreams. They will manifest as your dreams, mainly because they want to they want to vanish, they want to free themselves from the prison of your mind. Because look at this like this. Okay, like those thoughts, okay, those little thought forms that come to you as dreams, okay, they are more intelligent than you, because they want to be released, so that after they are released they can simply dissipate. Okay, and through dissipation they actually become one and the same with creation. Okay, so they can simply live and exist in peace. But no, you're just a tormentor. Okay, just because you've been tormented in life, all you want is, you simply want to keep these things close to you. Okay, you want to keep them in the prison of your mind, because they're the source of your pain, and you believe that without that pain your life will be much worse. Okay, there is a really bad problem, a big problem, when you actually end up considering that your lifestyle, okay, has to revolve around pain. Because irrespective of how much pain you induce to yourself, there is never ever gonna be that one person to come and remove you from that pain. Okay, there will be no God, no angels, no devils, no nothing, no other people who will come. Even if other people might come and deliver you somewhat from your pains, you have to learn by yourself how to no longer create those pains, because if you solve some people's problems and not teach them how to not create other problems, guess what? They will be creating other problems. And worse than that, they will create problems because they finally see that there's someone to solve them, so uh, they won't simply move a finger, but they will still create more problems because they want you close by. The only reason people create problems in their lives is out of a lack of knowledge, and the lack of knowledge also comes from the idea lack of responsibility. Okay, we have leaders and bosses nowadays, especially bosses, because people are running away from responsibilities. You can see this in politics, you can see this in literally everywhere. Okay, even teachers, okay, who should be the most sacred part of any society. Okay, even teachers run away from responsibility because many of them believe that, they just live in a superficial level, and they believe that teaching means just sharing some information. No, that is not teaching, that is just sharing. Teaching means touching other people's emotions, touching other people's minds, okay? Being, waking up and cuddling the curiosity within those children. But you're not doing anything other than breed some zombies, because you're just wasting those children's time, those people's time, okay? Those children, okay? Their time is being wasted by these fool teachers, okay? Who are nothing else than prey to their own mind. So having gone through all this, okay, and hopefully having realized that the mind can simply create so many things, especially when it is in pain, in order to escape from pain, what humans have created as the so-called God is basically nothing else than a tremendous thought form. And yes, this thought form is basically the propagator of most, if not all, the human pains, especially in the Western society, because having become introspective enough, I have realized that most of the pains and misaccomplishments in life come from a single few points. Okay, people believe they are not good enough, and especially in the eyes of their so-called God, who will be very brutal in their judgment. Okay, and there is also this so-called fear of death, okay, which Christianity also seems to have promoted as, like the most horrible thing to happen. Okay, but let's actually dive a bit into psychiatry. Okay, what is that, let's call it, what is that, what was it called, disorder, okay, that sees death as actually the greatest affront towards them, and also the worst thing that can happen? Oh yes, those are the narcissists. Okay, now of course religion usually and almost always stems from pure narcissism, because it's bent on control, and it's always bent on making yourself even bigger. Okay, like in the eyes of God, we as humans are, the most favorite race, which is kind of narcissistic. Okay, this God is always a human. Okay, because, well, it's always a human, it can't be any other way, shape or form, and it's also a man, like, uh, I don't know why can't it just be a human? It doesn't need to have a gender necessarily, just can be, humanoid form. But I simply doubt that this actually, has a human form. Okay, this manifestation. Okay, and worse than that, like, just think of it. Okay, you have these guides. Okay, these priests, these preachers. Okay, this is nothing else than another narcissistic aspect. Okay, it's craving, desperately craving for attention. Why should the masses come to you to connect to a thing which is an illusion you have also created? Okay, it's like, everyone is divine. Okay, everyone can connect to their own inner self, because that's where the God exists. Okay, in your inner self. Okay, that is where the inner deity exists, and basically that inner deity is your potential. Okay, and when it comes to exploring yourself, your inner existences, your inner dimensions of life, everyone is as capable. Okay, you're as capable as Gautama the Buddha, as Jesus, and any other enlightened being that has walked the earth, and why not even is still walking the earth. Okay, so the point about this, okay, it's obviously a, like a humongously narcissistic aspect, okay, like everything has to be human centric, okay. uh, we humans are one of the youngest races on this planet, okay, so obviously this god is also a very young manifestation, okay. Everything that you think of, you're basically creating thought forms, and these thought forms exist at a individual level, and they also exist at a broader level, okay. Let's actually take it you know at the level of a community, of a city, of a country, continent, I don't know, federation, whatever. Because basically everything is, to a certain extent, energy. And well, basically, almost everything in this universe is energy. There are things beyond energy as well. And well, the point is, and I was very knowledgeable of this. I actually said there is something beyond energy when I was very young. I don't know exactly. I don't recall the age, but I know I had that idea come to my mind, and I also spoke that to myself. So, moving even further, okay, this idea that whatever you are thinking of, you are creating thought forms, okay. um, Everything that you create is basically a thought form. Even the machines that we create, they're also represented to a certain extent by some thought forms. Even the ideas that you think, your fantasies, your sexual fetishes, your whatever you're creating certain thought forms, okay. Even when you stay in your house, if you become a bit more aware, you will see that in different parts of your house you will mainly think of a certain few things. And that happens because you've thought of those things the most in those areas, so the most prominent manifestation in there is that respective thought form that has so much so easy access to you, because well, guess what, you've thought the most of them, okay, of those thoughts, okay. When you connect to Facebook, when you connect to a certain person, when you connect or when you think to of something someone said, okay, those are also thought forms, okay, that are, they are growing and growing, okay. They are becoming bigger and bigger the more people think of those, okay. That is why there is something called the pendulum effect, okay. So the pendulum effect means that every thought form and every such form created has the power to influence you, okay. Even if they were created in the past, they may still exist in the present through the form of a thought form, okay. So if a celebrity says a certain thing and people like that, okay, they're constantly thinking of that, okay, feeds that thought form, and that thought form gets, well, I don't know what shape it might get, but it gets bigger and bigger and, broader and broader and probably even more conscious the more people feed it with, okay. And the thoughts that you feed it with are also going to influence its existence, okay. Now this has been taken to a greater level of existence, for example in India, where God creation has, like, correctly been done and scientifically been applied, okay. So there are other sciences, like again in India there was the idea of creating yantras or devis, okay, entities that you create out of energy, you structure them in a way that they exist to allow you to experience different dimensions of your imagination, of your life, and whatever further things, that kind of elude me for now. But there is also tulpology, or the whatever it's called, the science that allows the creation of tulpas, okay. So yeah, this all these ideas, okay, are far more advanced, but when you constantly think of a certain thing, you're still creating a thought form which is becoming broader and broader. Now imagine all the hundreds of years that humanity has been thinking about this god, okay. Even when you create marriage, okay, marriage is represented by a three, okay, but not because of the child, okay, not because of the presentation of the presence of the child, okay. What people have simply misunderstood is that the number 3 depicts the two individuals that are bound into this ritual of marriage, and then there is the thought form of marriage, because marriage in itself is an entity. A country in itself is an entity. A whatever people create, even a corporation is an entity. and everything that represents it, and all the thoughts that people are sending out, okay, they are becoming that entity, okay, they are becoming part of that entity, and that entity will manifest itself, right, and will, well, probably not shape our reality, but will leave a positive or negative influence, or both, depending on what people think. Okay, your Windows crashes, you're gonna swear at Microsoft. Guess what? Microsoft is an entity or a set of entities, and guess what? You're feeding them your energy, and at the same time you're sending negativity to that, and that can also influence, in a way, to a certain extent, the people who represent that. Okay, and well, there are a lot of things, and let's not dive too much into this because people might end up in paranoia. But again, think of all the things that people have thought about God, okay? Good things, bad things, right? But usually there is fear and denial, and like literally everything that you can do bad to yourself, religion kind of promotes that, because the more you inhibit yourself, the more you are open towards any solution to pull you away from that, okay? If you close down your emotions because you think that you're never good enough in the eyes of your God, you'll be severely punished and judged, and this fear, this narcissistic fear of death that religion seems to be filled with. And again, that's not generalized, but all these things, you have been actually creating a big monster that you have called God, okay? Because this God actually exists, okay? This monster, okay, that actually is a breathing ground for each and every person's way of imagining God, okay? Because nowadays people are free, and they can actually come with even more twisted and contorted ways, to portray God, and to control their children, to control, dumb people around them, and as such. So all this being said, this God actually exists, but not as the creator of the universe, okay? This actually exists as a hideous set of thought forms that we as a race have been creating, okay? And guess what? Worse than this, it's not that we have been creating this, but we have been polluting the Akashic records of the planet, okay? You have been polluting the memory, okay, of the planet, okay, the emotions of the planet, with all this suffering. And all this religion was only needed just because we, just as nowadays, are incapable of understanding and realizing the potential of our mind and our emotions, and we are simply unable, and you are also running away from the capacity to simply learn about our emotions and how to correctly use the mind and how to correctly make use of our emotions, okay? This is basically a lack, okay? And a lack is an invitation towards demons and all sorts of parasitic life forms, okay? And religion in itself is a form of lack, because when you believe in religion, you can't believe in religion and in yourself at the same time, okay? You can't serve two masters at the same time. You either believe in God or you either believe in yourself, and believing in yourself has always been a fear, okay? And that is why religion hasn't been promoting that, because again, it is another narcissistic aspect. Why am I saying this? Is very simple, because narcissists want all the attention. Now if you believe in yourself, you're no longer giving them attention, so you have to be called a heretic, and you have to be killed, because that's an affront to their existence. And you have to just understand, the narcissist only lives in the past, okay? They live in the past and in the pains that have been influencing them, okay? So you just have to understand that there is nothing else than pain and thinking of the past, okay? So all this being said, well, things can get really ugly, and I don't want to speak about, go even deeper, okay? Like, not ugly in sense of me, okay? So the point is, I'm just here to present my points and my opinions, okay? Feel free to disregard them, feel free to accept them as they are, but if you haven't experienced anything in this, there most likely be nothing else than a belief, okay? And a belief, again, means nothing else than, accepting things without the necessity for proof. So hopefully this video served in a way, like an eye-opener, let's say. So all this being considered, well, keep loving yourself, Keep doing the introspection that you're doing. You are loved and appreciated. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Hopefully this video has, given you a bit, you know, a bit of an extra opinion about the idea of God, religion, and the futility of the mind, and the problem that many people had throughout history when they were faced with things the mind couldn't simply understand. Okay, so all this being said, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Perin Board signing out.